You forgot your axe.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Hype Movie Reviews, where hype comes to die. I'm School Writer, and today we're going to talk about Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So, Elvira, while her show wasn't in Brazilian TVs, her movie was, and was right in the afternoon, after school programming. Yes, Brazilian TV was wild. Many channels didn't care at all what kind of movie they were showing in the mornings and in the afternoons, so we had everything that wasn't explicit porn. Everything else, including vanilla porn, like Barbarella and gory horror movies, was A-OK. Anyway, reviewing Clue made me nostalgic for those movies of yore, and I decided to tackle Elvira, or Elvira. I must admit that when I first saw this movie when I was a kid, 90% of the humor went over my head. But when I tried to rewatch it as an adult, I had some weird problems. I don't know why. I had these sudden blackouts. No, not like I was dozing off. No, my brain was. Anyway, did this movie endure the test of time? Is Elvira still the Mistress of the Dark? So, what is it about? Elvira, Mistress of the Dark is a 1988 horror comedy movie directed by James Signorelli, starring the titular host of the Elvira movie macabre series, Elvira, or here in Brazil, Elvira. It was considered a box office bomb and, bizarrely, a candidate for both Best Actress and Worst Actor prizes in different contests, which got neither. In this movie, Elvira, played by Cassandra Peterson, is a horror hostess, or was until her boss tried to sexually harass her and she quit her job, violently. But that's okay, she has a show in the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas primed up, except that she needs $50,000 to properly put it on air. And suddenly, coincidentally, her grand aunt Morgana Talbot dies and leaves everything for her.
Is that timing or what?
Now Elvira will have to go to Falwell, Massachusetts, in order to get the money for her show. Easy peasy, right? Wrong, because said idyllic town is in fact a conservative hell controlled by the prudish morality club, who immediately hostilizes her and seeks to drive her out of town. Making things worse, her grand uncle Vincent Talbot, played by Morgan Shepherd, has nefarious plans for the hostess. Will Elvira be able to pull off her dreams and thrive in this colorful, sterile place? Visuals. The first thing I noticed when seeing this movie again was the quirky style of directing. James Signorelli is a director who spent nearly 30 years on the Saturday Night Live comedy shorts, and the style here is basically the same. Most of the time the camera will be stable to focus on one person setting up the joke, then reaction shots of the comedy quips.
Well, I never.
Yeah, and you never will with them soup cans on your head.
There are very few shots where the camera moves alongside the action, and even then it's more akin to a sitcom rather than a film. Like I said, the enormous majority of this movie will be focused on one or two people talking, some shenanigans, and then shocked expressions. And speaking of the camera, okay, yeah. This is basically the spine of the movie. No, not the visuals. I mean, the spine from which everything in this movie is built upon, including the visuals, are two main things. First, this is a B-movie that knows it's a B-movie, and two, Elvira is absolutely hot and knows it.
Hi.
With that out of the way, yes, most of the times the camera will be centered around either her breasts or her derriere, with some of the gratuitous shots of those legs. Outside of Elvira, there are also some nice framings to set up some jokes for sharp eyes to see in blink and you miss it moments. The sets are also B-movie style with some extra resources on them. You have the town that has been absolutely used in several other movies, and they won't be ashamed of that, and the interesting clash between the Morality Club and Elvira. The members of the club dress up in fancy, colorful clothes, but they are steadily miserable grouches who think that sex education is akin to Satanism, while Elvira dresses in black, uses white makeup, and is the most lively person to step into the town since the Dukes of Hazzard. Yes, that's the same setup used there. A detail that I really liked is that, to make Talbot menacing, the camera focuses on his teeth, particularly in his canines, as if he were a vampire, and his darkened incisors as if he were a corpse pretending to be alive. So overall, yeah, this movie knows what it is. Acting. And the actors know who they are. Cassandra Peterson is a B-movie actress, knows it and goes along with it fine. This is her main strength, allowing her to spill the cheesiest lines and the lamest jokes with casualness of breathing and make them charming. You won't see extremely dramatic tear-inducing acting, and she won't try. At least being a bit too cheesy, but by the love of Jove, she could read out of a phone book and make it entertaining. So comfortable in being Elvira as a second nature. Her forte is her lively personality, her snappy comebacks, and, well, she knows what she's about.
Tell him I was more than just a great set of boobs. I was also an incredible pair of legs.
Most of the cast are played by her associates of the Groundings comedy troupe, and it shows. You have snappy comebacks, jabs, horrified faces, and quite some skill to make sketches done for a whole movie in a nice chemistry. Quite entertaining. But if you are seeking something more grounded and deeper, what the hell are you doing here? If I had to criticize someone's acting, it would be Bob. It was reported that he was chosen to be the hunk in order to attract Elvira's attention, and the actor was chosen because he genuinely got awkward whenever sharing the room with Peterson. And akin to a monkey's paw, they got it. Whenever Bob is shy around Elvira, it works wonderfully. To anything else, well, and sadly the wooden acting doesn't resonate well with the more energetic Peterson, making it feel as if Elvira was alone in a scene. A strict man for her antics would have fared far better. Last but not least, Morgan Shepherd was quite good as a villain. It does show that the directing wanted him to emulate Vincent Price, but Morgan played his evil old man his own style, with bursts of energetic anger interceded with dripping, slow malice, perfect for this B-movie. Writing. The writing is an interesting case. The plot itself is so generic that it's not worthy making a spoiler section. It's the absurdly basic fish out of the water comedy where you pick the blandest possible scenario and put the most absurdly outlandish character. But the twist is that it knows what it is. Instead of going for an Oscar bait territory, just keeps itself campy and cheesy. So everything rides on Elvira, or rather she rides everything with gusto. She is the one to carry the jokes, to make the most of the snappy comebacks and the double entendres. Those are quite funny, but their snappy nature and the pause to let the audience take the joke prevents it from evolving into a rapid-fire comedy. And since most of everything relies on Elvira as a character in mind and body, if you are seeking something that revolves around something more than sex, go back to Clue. It's the typical case of specialization. If you like this sort of comedy, you're in for a treat. If not, well, as a character, Elvira is vain, money-hungry, manipulative, and kind of stupid. But she's meant to be the sort of anti-protagonist of the B-movies instead of the norm, and absolutely rolls with it. If you look under the hood, you see that she's quite the nice polar opposite. In a time where female characters were turned into hamburger by slashers if they dared to show even a bare titty on screen, Elvira not only shows a cleavage with pride, she makes jokes about it without any fear of her repercussions. She knows that she's hot, owns it, talks openly about her sexual life, and if any man thinks that just because she flaunts it she's easy to grab, she kicks their asses repeatedly.
Just because this house is up for grabs doesn't mean I am.
And even if she's quite different from the perfect innocent slasher fish out of the water protagonist, the writing never goes overboard with her characterization and uses her traits well. While she manipulates a bunch of teenagers in order to do her bidding, she treats them far better than their parents do. Anytime she acts in a greedy way, she gets punished, and the writing pokes fun at her moments of stupidity instead of glorifying them. showing that she's just as fallible as everyone else. In fact, a lot of the humor is Elvira poking fun at herself and how miserable her life is. The plot itself has the same trait of the comedy, as in the specialization. Just like any other fish of the water comedy, it starts showing the problem that will kick up the plot, which is Elvira getting fired, a small traveling montage with some snippets of jokes, which feel at the same time funny but disjointed, and then she arrives. There's a spectacle, the confrontations, but again there is also the subversion. For starters, the morality club is absurdly in your face in how they abhor sex, at least for the time. And of course, every single one of them is a hypocrite. Bob, the love interest, doesn't immediately fall head over heels for Elvira. There are some rather funny scenes where she takes him for granted due to her beauty, only to fall flat on her face. Nope, she has to work in her own way to catch him. But other than that, it follows the usual structure. There is the initial clash, there's the sudden exposition dumps, the confrontation, and some weird jumps to make the plot move along till the ending where happiness is achieved. There are also some nice barbs here and there about Elvira not being the kind of gal whose dreams come true only to subvert it, but overall it's a simple B-movie plot with some spice and some B-movie fun to be had. Soundtrack. The soundtrack follows the same formula. It knows that it's a cheesy B-movie with the guitar riffs of the 80s, and because of that, it's actually quite enjoyable. The licensed songs are also quite nifty. I especially liked the intro song, Once Bitten, Twice Shy by Lori Chaco. Sadly I can't see anything else from this artist. The ending musical montage was also interesting, with all the cheesy spookiness of the 80s, but the rap part was a tad cringy and dated. Not that it would be out of place for this movie. Speaking of, a lot of people talk about Peterson's assets and her body, but she's actually a good singer. Final thoughts. Yep, this is one of those movies that you watch knowing what you are getting into. The kind of movie that doesn't shy away from being a B flick and doesn't promise anything besides that either. Kind of rare nowadays. It's that afternoon popcorn flick that you watch to have some small laughs here and there, with the extra spices of Elvira, her wit, her snappy comebacks, and